one man has actually led this. He's a Nobel Prize winner, economist, incidentally. A bit of an uneconomist as well, because he has much broader range of knowledge. His name is Amartya Sen. Amartya Sen started to write about this. He told us that he had been inspired when he was a little boy. His father, or his grandfather, who was a great Sanskrit and Hindu scholar, had brought him along to one of his grandfather's visits to Nalanda when he was a young boy. Amartya Sen is about my age, so when I say he's a young boy, it was 60, 70, 80 years ago. I'm 80 years old, and Amartya Sen is 77. So when he was a young boy, that's 60, 70 years ago, he was from Bengal, from Calcutta. In fact, he was studying. His father was a professor at the university started by Rabindranath Tagore, who had also been inspired by this idea of a more universal learning and broad learning, but didn't have quite the support at the time. Amartya Sen remembered what he saw as a boy, and then he started to read about it and look it up and think about it, and he wrote a number of essays, which then read by many people, inspired, not only in India, but in the West, in China, in Japan, many parts of the world. And more people came out to say, well, why don't we do something about this? Why just leave it in the past? Is it possible that as Asia is now seen to be rising, with now more resources, more people are educated, more people have access to all the best knowledge in the world today, why can't we do something about it which is identifiable with our own history and our own past, and not simply dependent on other people? And to consider why it should be that everything must come from the West even today. Why should, and in the future, should it always be like that? So these are some of the thoughts which people put to Amartya Sen. And eventually he was inspired to go to the Indian government and go to a number of other centers of knowledge to test out this idea, and found a lot of support. And this is what Nalanda in the 21st century is about, is that he was invited then by the Indian government to head Nalanda Mentor Group, which I had the privilege of being a member, and brought together a number of people from around the world, including people from China and Japan, but mainly Asians, but also people who work in Europe. Amartya Sen himself is at Harvard. Another member of the committee of the mentor group is Sugata Bose, is also at Harvard. Lord Bernard Desai, who's a member of the group, is actually in London at the London School of Economics. So although they are Asians, they are actually Asians who have made their names as great scholars in the West, who have come in and joined Amartya Sen in this enterprise. The mentor group met for a few years. In fact, the first meeting of all these people was actually in Singapore. It was organized through the inspiration of the Minister of Foreign Affairs here, George Yeo. He asked me and my East Asian Institute to organize that first conference to bring them all together to talk about it. And when we gathered together, we were quite surprised at the enthusiasm that people showed towards the idea. And from then onwards, it took off, with Amartya Sen providing the leadership. His leadership was absolutely crucial because he has the ear of the Prime Minister of India, and not only that, he was able to inspire almost all the Indian leaders of every political party to support this whole enterprise. And eventually, after several years of work, a report was submitted, led to the Act, going through the Indian Parliament, and this was passed just a few months ago. It was passed in October last year, and in November, a Vice Chancellor was appointed, the governing board is set up, the governing board has met, and the report, incidentally, just briefly, because I don't want to spend too much time on it, this is still very much something in the future, but just to give you an idea, the report is that this is not a Buddhist university, it is a modern university inspired by certain Buddhist ideals, but also inspired by ideals developed elsewhere which emphasize open-mindedness, intellectual curiosity, integrity towards the search for truth and knowledge, and so on. These are the new inspirations. and it would include fields ranging from the humanities, comparative religion, literature, languages, all the way to mathematics, science, computer science, and information technology, all the way. I mean, we will not, for the moment anyway, think of certain things like more technical things right now, but the general range, the intellectual side of it is wide-ranging. It will be a postgraduate university. It will draw upon scholars and invite young scholars, particularly young scholars, to develop an interest in this coming together of minds in a historic place which we hope will inspire new ideas, new ventures, new discoveries. Nalanda is being rebuilt in Bihar. Money has been allocated. The site has already been marked out. It's going to be a very big site, almost as big as the ancient site of Nalanda, which spreads out for about something like 80 hectares of land is spread out. The new Nalanda won't be quite so spread out, but it will be very big. It will have residential. It will be an international university. Students will come from all over the world, scholars from all over the world. It will be essentially funded for recurring costs by the Indian government, but it will be also receiving donations and support from all over institutions, particularly in Asia, but not only in Asia. Other institutions elsewhere have already shown an interest. So there is much excitement at the moment. It's still a long way before there's something to show for it, but we have the blueprint ready. There's a master plan being drawn up for the buildings, for the site. The Bihar government is very enthusiastic about building new roads leading to the campuses. A new airport is being built so that the international transportation will be facilitated, and so on. And I could go on, but this is just looking into the future now. But I think the important thing, if I go back, is that it was inspired by something a long time ago, forgotten, but the power of the ideal represented by what had been forgotten has come up again. And it is amazing how people have responded to this thing which has been forgotten for so long. The fact that it is now actually in the minds of so many people, and that governments in India and Japan and China and elsewhere, Thailand, Korea, are actually pledging to support this in a way that what could have been unimaginable just a few decades ago. So I think there's something to look forward to. Thank you very much.